Hey, did you go fishing last Saturday?
Yeah, sure did. I didn't have any luck, though. Missed a couple of nice ones. Caught one little scrawny bass, about a pound and a half. But when that wind came up, buddy, we came in.
Hey, let me tell you, that wind caught me halfway across the lake. I thought I'd never get back. I did get 3 bass, though, so it was worth the trip. We fried them up when I got home, and man, they were good.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey, Fred.
Hey,
How's it
Fred.
going?
How you doing?
I heard over the weekend that we weren't getting any raises next year. Have you heard that?
No. How come?
Well, apparently because of that bad traffic accident out on Broadway a couple of years ago. Well, the way I heard it, our lawyer sold us down the river. And the county just settled with the kid who ran out into that pavement cut.
Yeah, well, you know, I heard he got hurt pretty bad. But, you know, our signs were out there. Now, anybody who drives into a hole that big shouldn't be out there driving in the first place. Wait a minute. Hadn't he been to a party at the college or something like that?
Yeah, they said he wasn't too drunk. The way I remember it, they tested him and he wasn't legally drunk. But I do agree, with 2 signs and an obvious hole out there, it surely couldn't have been our fault.
No, I don't think so.
Morning, guys.
Oop, straighten up, fellas. Here comes the big boss.
Hey, Jack.
Jack?
How's it going, Jack?
Morning. How things going with y'all?
Well, it was pretty good until Fred started this business about not getting raises next year.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Oh, that's a distinct possibility. Looks like our budget's going to be real tight next 2 or 3 years.
Is this all because of that accident that happened during construction out on Broadway?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. County settled that thing last week for over $700,000.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, yeah, it's a lot, but, you know, he had some pretty bad injuries. He lost his right leg and lost the use of his right arm and hand. And the attorneys seemed to think we were pretty lucky to get out for the amount that we settled for. You know, he's a pretty smart young man, and he's not going to be able to work the rest of his life and support himself. And they felt like if it went to trial that we might have lost $3 or $4 million.
Oh, man, I don't believe this. I mean, of all the highway departments in the world, we get socked.
We aren't by ourselves, guys. I mean, state of Louisiana from 82 to 84 lost over $32 million in cases like this, and that didn't include what the cities and parishes lost down there. In 1989, the state of California paid out over $36 million, and they had another $15 million in IOUs that they've got to pay when they get appropriations from the state. So we've got counties and cities and state governments all over the United States that are getting hit like this. In fact, we've had to pay out money before. This just the first time that we've had such a big amount that it really had an impact on our budget.
Well, didn't our construction people have their signs out?
Yes, there were some men working signs out there, but we didn't have an adequate number of cones to properly guide traffic by that curve in the road out there. You know, we didn't have anything out there to tell them of that lane shift. With all of that turning traffic that people had to watch out for, and all those flashing lights at the fast food places, and all that oncoming traffic, it was just difficult for a driver to see that curve in the road and to see that drop-off. In fact, if you consider the perception reaction time of the typical driver, we definitely should have had some advanced warning signs out there, warning of the curve and warning of the drop-off. And then we should have had barricades and cones to adequately channelize traffic through that work zone.
Yeah, but don't the construction signs cover us?
Well, we just haven't adequately let people know that we've got to follow the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Now, that's been adopted by our state as state law. And basically, the manual says you got to have more than men working signs up there most of the time.
But doesn't that only apply to, like, state highways and state highway department personnel?
Oh, no, Carl. That manual applies on all roads and streets that are open to public travel. Doesn't matter whether they're state highways or county roads or city streets. It applies to all of them.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and if we don't follow the guidelines and the philosophy of that manual, then we're skating on thin ice. When that accident happens, it will, we better be following that manual.
Man, I'm glad I'm in maintenance, not construction. I don't know anything that's in that book. Oh, you construction guys have got it made. Your plans tell you what signs and barricades and pavement markings to use.
Yeah, but Mike, you and your people are supposed to be following that manual too. And it can help you an awful lot. In fact, that manual is for everybody. Construction people, maintenance people, our utility people, the police, sheriff's people, contractors, anybody working out there on that roadway or along that roadway that are doing work that might be hazardous to the public, got to follow that manual. It doesn't matter how long they're out there.
Yeah, but don't you think we do a really good job overall?
Yes, but we could do a better job. Frankly, we've been lucky so far. I've seen cases where we've had misleading pavement markings, or we haven't used enough cones or barricades to channelize traffic through the work area. I've seen cases where we've used flashing lights on barricades at night when we're supposed to use steady burning lights according to the manual. And then we'll put our devices out there sometimes and we don't maintain them. They get knocked over or pushed out of the way, or they get dirty. They don't show up at night. Things like that are especially bad for people like my father, who's 94 years old, still driving, and he needs a lot more light than he used to when he was a lot younger. And then there are other people that are out there. There are people on vacation that may be driving along, they're tired, or young people that are inexperienced, or somebody like maybe one of you guys that on the way home from work stopped and had a couple of beers. Not drunk now. You've stopped to have dinner and maybe you've had a drink along with your dinner. Those kinds of people are using the roads legally. And we have to design our work zones to accommodate those people. And even in fact, there might be a passenger in a car that's in a wreck. That passenger can sue the driver and the county, and they can win from both of us.
Jack, how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, we're just going to have to do a much better job of training your people, Fred. And Carl and Mike's people, all of our construction and maintenance people are going to have to get adequate training in the manual. We're going to have to train our utility people, our police agencies. We're going to have to train contractors to make sure that they understand that the manual applies and that it applies to all of us when we're out there.
Now, the police are only out during emergencies. I mean, you mean the manual applies to them too?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, they're mentioned in the manual specifically. I know of a case a couple of years ago in a town where there had been an accident the night before, and the utility company the next day had to restring a power line across a major highway. Now, it wasn't an emergency at this time. They had time to get adequate signs and cones and barricades together, but they didn't. They called the police and said, come out and help us work and close this lane off. Well, they kept the lane closed for 4 or 5 hours. The police came out. They parked a police vehicle in the high-speed lane on a curve next to the median with no advance warning signs or anything. 55-mile-an-hour traffic. And you know, the police testified that they didn't have any manuals or any training documents to tell them how to do this. They just used their common sense. Well, there was a young lady driving a car, came around the curve, saw the police vehicle parked in the high-speed lane. She tried to avoid it, lost control. She's now a quadriplegic. I think her injuries were caused by the fact that the police and the utility didn't follow the manual. She sued the city, and she had a pretty large award. Now, we've got to learn from situations like this.
Well, Jack, you've given us all something to think about.
Yeah.
We all know that safety is the primary reason for setting up good traffic control. But you've just seen how the issue of liability is also extremely important to both your agency and yourself. Today, more than ever, work zone accidents are becoming courtroom lawsuits, with public agencies and their employees paying the price for improper traffic control. To help you avoid situations like you've just seen, here are 5 basic steps which you should follow to minimize your agency's exposure to lawsuits. Now, these steps are very simple and are based on good common sense. By following these steps, you'll also reduce the chances for accidents, injuries, and deaths in your work zones.
First, you should develop and use a traffic control plan for every job. The detail of this plan will depend on the size and complexity of the work. However, even for a simple 2-hour repair job, it's good to pre-think how to best handle traffic so that you'll have the proper devices and adequate personnel on hand. Second, always follow the guidelines in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Use traffic control devices which are standard in size, shape, color, and message. Third, try to use a work strategy that minimizes disruption of traffic flow. In particular, try to minimize the amount of time that workers and equipment are on the roadway. Also, don't expect all drivers to slow down at work zones, even when a reduced speed limit is posted. You must make work zones safe at prevailing traffic speeds. Fourth, promptly remove any traffic control devices which are no longer needed. Fifth, all personnel who install traffic control devices should receive training on the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices and safe traffic handling procedures. Flaggers should receive prior instructions on proper flagging techniques.
It's also very important to inspect work zones to discover damaged or missing devices and to identify safety problems which may develop. Now, a good inspection program includes the following elements.
Day and nighttime inspections are essential, and they should be regularly scheduled. The number and frequency of inspections will depend on the location and type of work. Holiday and weekend inspections are also important since traffic accidents don't take a vacation. It's desirable to use an inspection report form. The report form will provide a record of your efforts to ensure safety, and it'll provide a checklist of items to look for. During the inspections, be on the constant lookout for potential safety hazards. Examples of hazard indicators include skid marks on the pavement, impact damage to traffic control devices, and/or undesirable driver actions. If damaged devices or other potential hazards are observed, it's critical to have the personnel and replacement devices readily available to make the needed repairs, day or night. There should be a procedure set up for making sure that needed repairs are made in a timely and proper manner. Finally, the entire inspection and repair process should be properly documented. Lawsuits resulting from work zone accidents often do not come to trial for a year or more. If you don't have written records, it may be very difficult to remember and prove what was done.
Not only is it important to keep written records of inspections, but it's also very important to record key items of information about every work zone. These include the starting and ending time of work, the location of the work, the type, condition, and position of traffic control devices, the names of personnel and the types of equipment used, and any changes in temporary or permanent regulatory traffic control devices. These items can be easily kept in a supervisor's or foreman's diary, even for small maintenance projects. It is recommended that more detailed information about work zone conditions be gathered and documented whenever there's an accident anywhere near the work area. This additional information could prove useful in the event of a lawsuit, and more importantly, it may help prevent future accidents.